Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 6:06. It's O'Connor and Company. Thanks for tuning in here as we soar across the sky, dropping little nuggets of news, entertainment, and information from our plane. I don't know. I just heard the Top Gun music. I wanted to do something sort of.
Say that's a little, yeah. Okay,
it's
Mr.
a weird analogy.
Tom
Let's
Cruise.
just move on. Coming
I
up
think
in
you're
some of
taller
those.
than Tom Cruise, so there you
I
go.
think you're taller than Tom Cruise.
Ah.
I think Peter Dinklage is taller than Tom Cruise. 7:05, Virginia State Senator John McGuire will join us, give us an update on Sage's Law. 8:05, Jennifer Squires and Ned Ertl, they're planning the recall effort of Charles Allen in D.C. 8:15, Sierra Fox of Fox 5 with a crazy story about money raised for who everyone thought was just a homeless man and turns out to be a violent criminal. And then at 8:35, Stephanie Lundquist Aurora, a mom from Virginia, to raise some flags about a new bill. The Democrats want to make it harder for kids to participate in sports. So we'll get to all of that coming up, Mercedes Schlapp. But I really want to talk about this brouhaha over Tucker Carlson. We sort of mentioned it yesterday a bit. Tucker Carlson, who is an independent journalist now, he's got the Tucker Carlson Network. I subscribe to it. It's good content. He promotes most of his videos on the X platform as well, but there's some behind a paywall too. It's good stuff, good content that you can subscribe to if you want that content. It's a business, and he's really good at it. God knows he's good at it. He's been at the top of his game there as the number one rated show on Fox News for many years. Tucker is in Moscow, or just left Moscow, after interviewing the president of Moscow, Vladimir Putin. And the EU is now threatening sanctions against him, and they want to impose a travel ban against him if he tries to go to Europe. There are other journalists who are screaming that he shouldn't be allowed back in the country. I love that. They shouldn't let him back in the country. I love that the left finally has decided that someone on this planet shouldn't be allowed into this country, even though he's legally allowed to be here. And they're all screaming because they claim that he is becoming a mouthpiece for Vladimir Putin. They haven't even seen the interview yet. But just
right.
the fact that he's going and interviewing Vladimir Putin, they think is a treasonous move. And I literally don't understand this. Why would you let him have the interview? If you don't like the way he conducted the interview, if you think he has, then you can criticize it. But the mere act of going and interviewing somebody must condemn him, and he's got to be sanctioned.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the left senses that Tucker Carlson is not a journalist. They have been saying that he's been a propagandist for Russia, which is it's just ridiculous.
Right. Really quickly, and I'll be fast. It's not just the left. There are a lot of voices.
Oh yeah, there are. Yes,
a lot of
right.
conservative voices. Sebastian Gorka is one of them. Yeah.
And look, I understand, but here's the deal: the reality is that if you're a journalist, there is a responsibility to get all sides of the story. And that you allow the audience to decide. The problem is that we've shifted from journalism to propaganda. And I do think that there has to be a deeper dive into what the propaganda is coming from the left and also coming from even the right. Where are we in this propaganda machine where in the U.S. there is information that is being pushed solely on what Zelensky's doing in Ukraine and supporting endless funds coming from the United States in this war, that we're not seeing anyone calling for a peace deal with Russia and Ukraine. However, you're calling for a ceasefire between Hamas and Israel. And so it really raises these questions. And I think for Tucker, I think it's important to understand what is Putin thinking. Look, he's an evil man. He goes after his opponents. There was this attack on Ukraine. Where's his head? Where is this going to? When is this going to end? And so I think Tucker should ask the tough questions to Putin to figure out where he's headed.
And if he doesn't ask tough questions, you can criticize him for it. But listen, he's an opinion journalist. He expresses his opinion. I disagree with Tucker's opinion on many things. That doesn't mean that he doesn't have the right to go and interview, obviously, a very significant and important world leader on the world stage right now, especially somebody who affects American policy so much. And I have great respect for conservatives like Seb Gorka who think that thinks Tucker is really making a huge mistake. Or he's gone farther than just saying it's a huge mistake.
Someone's got to ask Putin the questions, and
course.
If the other journalists, you know what drives me crazy? Even like the tennis players, like during the Australian Open, if you're a Russian tennis player, they don't put their flag up.
Right.
Like, it's crazy.
Oh, no,
and
it's
don't
insane.
get me wrong. Yeah.
That doesn't mean you're pro-Putin. It just means
exactly.
it's like
Exactly.
And by the way, I think Vladimir Putin is a bad guy. I think that he is the aggressor in this war. I think that he is the enemy of Western nations right now. I
but there's
absolutely
plenty
believe
of
that.
corruption happening in Ukraine, and plus, we need to know
you can
there
believe
should be
both
the
of those things
accountability
at
of
the
that
same
money.
time.
Exactly.
You can believe both of those things at the same time. You can also believe all of those things about Vladimir Putin and also think that America shouldn't just throw endless amounts of money at that effort. And by the way, do it the way Chuck Schumer just did the other day, threatening American parents that if they don't fund the war in Ukraine, then we'll have to send your kids there to fight.
Yeah.
It's despicable the way the media has handled this entire thing. And here's the problem. If you are against the idea of Tucker Carlson getting an interview, then sadly you're on the side of this woman, who yesterday also expressed her disdain for Tucker Carlson getting this interview.
I mean, he's like a puppy dog. You know, he somehow has, after having been fired from so many outlets in the United States, I would not be surprised if he emerges with a contract with an outlet, because he is a useful idiot. He says things that are not true. He parrots Vladimir Putin's pack of lies about Ukraine. So I don't see why Putin wouldn't give him an interview, because through him, he can, continue to lie about what his, objectives are in Ukraine and what he expects to see happen.
She went on, by the way, to suggest that Donald Trump is also a puppet of Putin still, and I mean, it's the same old story. It's the same old story. But it's really funny for Hillary Clinton to, throw disdain at Tucker Carlson for being a puppy dog and being, friendly with Vladimir Putin. This is the woman who brought the red reset button over to Medvedev when she was the Secretary of State under Barack Obama. Barack Obama, the President of the United States, whispered in Medvedev's ear, listen, after my next election, I'll have more flexibility. Medvedev said, yes, I'll transmit that to Vladimir. I mean, please, Hillary's husband made hundreds of thousands of dollars delivering a speech in Moscow while Putin was president there. They loved Putin right up until it was politically convenient for them to hate Putin.
Right. And I mean, add to that, the Hunter Biden connections, whether it's with Ukraine or with Russia. I mean, it just doesn't stop. And I think Tucker journalists have an obligation to basically ask the tough questions and expose the truth. And that's what they have to do. And I think we've lost. It's just journalism has deteriorated in this country, and it's just so unfortunate. If Tucker's the one that can get the interview, let's see what he asks him. And I haven't seen the interview yet.
The interview is gonna drop tonight at 6:00, and we've got a little bit more. He's actually already addressed some of this hysteria, and we're going to let you hear what he had to say. But let me just be clear. I mean, because I just said, go and ask the interview. I'll criticize Tucker if I think the entire interview was just a softball and he was giving him a full body massage instead of asking him some tough questions, because I think Vladimir Putin deserves to be asked some tough questions. But guess what? Even though I might criticize Tucker's job if he does that, he still has a right to do that. You're an opinion journalist. You have a huge name that's asked for an interview. You happen to agree with that person. If you want to give them an interview that actually you guys can agree on things and you can promote that opinion, that's what opinion journalism is all about.
Yeah.
You may disagree with that opinion. Fine. Turn the channel, for God's sake. All right, you'll hear from Tucker addressing this in just a moment. First at 6:15. WMAL traffic and weather every 10 minutes. First on the fives, here's Jamie Whitten.
WMAL, making sense of the roads, because traffic doesn't always follow the pattern. Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
Why? I don't know. I mean, why are certain Republicans throwing their lot in? Why are, other Americans basically believing Putin? Why did Trump believe Putin more than our 11 intelligence agencies?
I don't know. Do you have a working theory?
I do have a working theory.
There you go. Why would Trump believe Putin over all of our intelligence agencies? Because the intelligence agencies lied. That's my working theory, by the way. And, did you hear that? This is the best part. Tucker Carlson is being accused of giving Vladimir Putin this softball interview. He's not going to ask tough questions. He's going to act like Vladimir Putin's friend. Did you hear that was Alex Wagner of MSNBC giggling along with Hillary Clinton, because she was really asking the tough questions of Hillary. And no, I'm not comparing Hillary Clinton to Vladimir Putin. Although, I mean, the murder rate is pretty close there between the two, I think. No, allegedly.
But, this brings up the issues of journalists that end up giving these interviews or having these interviews with authoritarian leaders. We saw that Lester Holt interviewed the president of Iran and not a friendly guy. Exactly.
Five months ago. 2 months before the October 7th attack.
These quote-unquote leftist journalists, they want to be called journalists, but then they're able to interview whoever they want. But if it's someone who's on the right, who is, you mentioned, an opinion journalist, they're like, nope, he's part of the propaganda. He's pushing the Putin line. And I just, I think it's, look, they've been trying to destroy Tucker Carlson for a very long time because he speaks the truth and he understands where we are from the sense of this propaganda that the left has been pushing. And quite frankly, we have to figure out when is this war going to end between Ukraine and Russia. That, I think, is critical because massive resources, massive U.S. resources have been going to help Zelensky in this war.
Mind was exploding the last couple of days as I saw journalists say there are women and children that continue to get murdered in Ukraine, and here we are interviewing Vladimir Putin. I'm saying, excuse me, I don't want the women and children murdered in Ukraine either. For over a year I've been saying, seems like a standoff, maybe we should talk about a ceasefire. And the second you say, let's talk about a ceasefire, you're Putin's puppet. You're suddenly on the side of Russia. It's outrageous. Let's let Tucker speak for himself, though, here, because he addressed all of this. Cut 4, Mr. Michael.
We're in Moscow tonight. We're here to interview the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin. We'll be doing that soon. There are risks to conducting an interview like this, obviously, so we thought about it carefully over many months. Here's why we're doing it. First, because it's our job. We're in journalism. Our duty is to inform people. 2 years into a war that's reshaping the entire world, most Americans are not informed. They have no real idea what's happening in this region, here in Russia or 600 miles away in Ukraine. But they should know. They're paying for much of it in ways they might not fully yet perceive.
Yeah, and there's a little bit more than we'll get to it, but there's such an important point to amplify here that in this country, if you voice a certain opinion or even ask questions about this war or about why we're spending this money on Ukraine and whether the money is being spent properly and maybe we could have a ceasefire or what's going on, you are silenced. You're not just disagreed with. You're not debated. You're not even argued with. You're just said, you can't say that. You can't voice that opinion. And I don't know about me, but whenever I'm told here in America that our God-given free speech can't be exercised and certain opinions and certain ideas, something like this that affects our money and potentially our children's lives in the military, if you're not even allowed to challenge that or say something about it, I am highly suspicious of those people who are trying to silence the exchange of ideas. And that's what they're trying to do here.
And also the polarization of journalism, which is that, if you're on MSNBC, you're only going to have liberals on or people who are going to be highly critical of, for example, President Trump. Let's just take that. Or, there's little room for debate, little room for questioning. I mean, we've seen the Biden administration constantly trying to censor anyone who's bringing up questions, whether it was on COVID, and they call it misinformation. The list goes on. And so here we have our own campaign happening within the United States where you have the government censoring Americans on topics. And look, we as Americans have this incredible gift of critical thinking and of thinking on our own and of questioning when we need to question. And part of this is if Putin speaks up, let them ask. He's willing to ask the tough questions. Let's listen and see what he has to say.
Of course.
But, there's plenty.
They're afraid that the American people will see Vladimir Putin and think, oh, well, he's not the monster everybody told me he was.
Like a sympathetic figure. But everybody knows he's executed his opponents. He puts his opponents in jail. I mean, come on. There's not a lot of good there either.
No. I'm not saying he is a good guy. What I'm saying is they're
I know.
afraid the American people are going to see him and not see the monster that they've painted him to be. Now, they might see the monster they painted him to be, but again, they're on the side of not wanting the American people to use their own brains and reach their own conclusions. Yeah. That's why Rachel Maddow on MSNBC wouldn't let you see Donald Trump's victory speech in Iowa.
Right.
Remember, they cut away from it. Oh, we'll let you know if any news happens there. You can trust us. We know whether it's news or not. All right, listen, again, it's so weird because you do this story and it's like we keep saying the right and the left. It's not that simple. Tucker Carlson is not necessarily your typical conservative. This all falls in various gray areas beyond right and left. That's why you sort of go back to your fundamental principles and ideas and what our Constitution stands for. And ultimately, when push comes to shove, it's a tough call. It's a coin flip. I don't know which way to go. You go toward the side of freedom. You go toward the side of free flow of information.
Yes.
Free flow of information. More news, more voices, more opinions, not silencing voices and opinions that only a few people are allowed to say is valid or not. That's all. Tucker's interview will run tonight, 6 p.m., and, well, we'll have something to say about it tomorrow. It's now 6:23.
Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 6:37 on this Thursday morning. We're flying along here. Larry O'Connor with Mercedes Schlapp. And Mercedes, we got a lot of help coming up because at 7:05, Virginia State Senator John McGuire, who's trying to help shepherd Sage's law through the Democrat waters in Richmond. We'll give you the latest on that law. Again, a bill that has a modest proposal. Let's not let government employees, teachers, administrators keep secrets of a sexual nature with a child, a minor child. Keep those secrets from their parents. That's all. Simple thing. I don't know why Democrats can't get on board with that. 8:05, Jennifer Squires and Nick Ertel, they are planning the recall effort of Charles Allen in D.C. 8:15, Sierra Fox 5, about a story we're about to tell you about right now. And then at 8:35, Stephanie Lundquist Aurora, a Virginia mom who says the Senate bill is going to make it harder for kids to play sports. Mercedes Schlapp, your kids play sports, don't they?
Yeah, but they love doing drama. I don't know what it is with all my kids. They just love to sing and dance. It's like the Von Schlapps. It's how it is, Larry.
It's
like
Uncle
if
Larry.
you raised them or something.
I was going to say it's Uncle Larry's influence on them. I'm very proud, actually.
Totally. Yes, we have 2 basketball players right now. Those are always fun games.
All right. Well, this story out of D.C. regarding a homeless vagrant that a Good Samaritan tried to help is not fun and games. Take a listen to the original report. This is cut 7, Michael, when Fox 5 explained what turned out, or what everyone thought, I should say, was going to be a very heartwarming, feel-good human interest story. Here, listen.
Which is a TikTok that's now gone
Best story
viral.
ever. Best story ever.
It shows a D.C. college student who stops to help a homeless man, asking for tea, then ends up with them spending the day together, going to CVS to get his cancer medication, and eventually with her getting him a hotel room to stay in. Just an incredible story. Take a peek at this video.
Hi, T.
Yeah.
Damn. From where? I'm walking to Trader Joe's. You want to walk with me?
Trader Joe's?
Yeah.
All the way up?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we can stop by Starbucks or something. Say hi to my TikTok. All right, so we must have gone to CVS.
All right, so you get the idea. This is a woman. She meets a homeless man. She decides to make a TikTok video out of this whole encounter. And it's a lot of virtue signaling. It's a lot of, let me show my audience that I'm going to meet a homeless person and take him for coffee and everything will be fine. I get it. But then the story started to grow. Here, cut 8, Fox 5 talks to this intern who's in D.C. about this video, and then what happened next?
So I'm actually from California. I just moved to D.C. about 3 weeks ago, and I needed to fill my fridge up. So I was going to get my groceries delivered and decided to walk instead. On my way to the grocery store, he had stopped me. And that's when I stopped. I was already vlogging myself about my day. And then he asked for tea, and then the rest is history.
Yeah, the rest is history. And what is that history? Well, they started raising money for this guy because of this exposure on social media. And again, on the face of it, it sounds really nice. People see this. Right. They want to help out a Good Samaritan. We're a charitable and loving country. We want to go ahead and help them out. So they raised a lot of money. Here, cut 9.
And so I'm actually in D.C. as a fashion intern.
Okay.
And I don't film any of that content. So I was recording myself, and he stopped while I was filming myself during my life. And then he asked for the tea, and normally people don't just ask for tea.
Right.
So that made me stop in my tracks. Like, something made me to stop.
So now you've got this GoFundMe. He's obviously going through treatment. We saw just how expensive this medication is that he had been holding off because he couldn't afford it, and you helped him with that, and that can be life-changing for someone who's going through that. What happens now with this huge account?
So my biggest concern was first getting him off the streets. I just got him a hotel room last night. As of right now, I'm running off of 4 hours of sleep. I've been helping him these past 2 days. My next step is to get his ID, his birth certificate. I mean, the hotels were giving me issues. They didn't even want to let him stay because he didn't have any ID. So I really want to help change his life around and find him some permanent housing.
All right. So they ended up raising $400,000. And again, feel good. I do like the fact that a hotel won't let you stay there if you don't have ID. But yeah, I'm sorry, you can't stay at our hotel. But here's a ballot to vote in our next election.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Let's leave that alone though for a minute.
Yeah.
All right. So what happens next? They're trying to find his birth certificate, get his ID, get more information about him. Well, they got more information about him, and it seems like this college student intern in D.C. better be careful because she could be in danger. Sierra Fox now at Fox 5 picks up the story. Here's cut 10.
The man in that viral TikTok video goes by Alonzo. Tonight, I exclusively spoke with a woman who says years ago here in D.C., he beat her up when she was homeless, and now she's only sharing the harrowing details with Fox 5. The attack was caught on camera, and we want to warn you, it may be difficult to watch.
This is exclusive video you will only see on Fox 5. Police say Alonzo Douglas Hebron put a scarf over the victim's head while she was sleeping outside Foundry United Methodist Church. Then he started punching her face and body for several minutes. The brutal assault happened in June 2020 on P Street in Northwest D.C.
I'm speechless. I do not understand how a human being can act like this.
So let's just cut to the chase here. This guy's homeless. He's got cancer. This woman, out of the kindness of her heart, helps him out, raises money for him, gets him an apartment, buys him his drugs, raises almost $500,000 for him. It turns out, just 4 years ago, this is how he treated a homeless person. He beat up a homeless woman, inches of her life. He's a felon. He's a violent criminal. Right. And now when he's homeless and down on his luck, he doesn't get beat up. He actually gets this great kindness delivered to him. It's a hell of a story.
Well, I think it shows you that, when it comes, do you imagine raising that money, $400,000 to a nonprofit like a Christ House, for example, we know near in Alexandria, Virginia, where they feed the homeless every single day, where they have people in there taking care of the homeless. You want individuals who have more of an expertise in dealing with the situation. Obviously, we've seen the homeless situation out of control in Washington, D.C. I mean, you go into every street, almost every street corner, there's a homeless person there, sadly. Yeah. And so, look, she intended to do something good. The reality is there was an ignorance attached to it that I think backfired on her.
Yeah, there's danger out there as well. And everybody wanted this to be a great story, and it still could be, by the way. I don't want to leave you with too much negativity. I want to give you a final summation here, but I just want you to know there's more about this guy. Here's cut 12. Not only do we believe he beat up this homeless woman a few years ago, but listen to this.
Reveal back in November 2012, Hebron was sentenced to 5 years in prison for stabbing a man in the neck with a screwdriver during a fight on Queen Street in Northeast D.C. The suspect's past also includes other assaults and robberies. According to D.C. courts, Hebron was released to a halfway house last year in June 2023. He escaped and then was returned by the U.S. Marshal Service. It's not clear when he was released.
Unbelievable. So, all right, so we're a little bit more on this. We're going to sum this up and actually hopefully bring a little bit of hope out of this whole story, if that's possible, and a good lesson to learn as well. All right, and I want you to know this is great reporting by Sierra Fox of Fox 5. She's going to join us at 8:15 to talk about this, as she did the follow-up on this. It appeared to be a very, wonderful, positive, feel-good story about an intern here, meets up with a homeless person, finds out he has cancer, and then eventually raises $400,000. The downside here is that we find out that this guy is a violent criminal. who is convicted of assault back in 2012 and now is accused of assaulting a homeless person, ironically, back in 2020. So, Mercedes, you and I are both Christian, and we want to approach things with the kindness of our hearts and sort of want to open up. This sounds like a parable that Jesus would tell, and I'm trying to get the lesson out of it.
Jesus also says, like, don't, boast. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need to be out, like. That's
true. Don't put it on your TikTok, I believe, was when Gospel According to Matthew.
I know she's trying to do good, but obviously she's also. It's not about exposing the problem. It's about her feeling good about herself. And I just think it's problematic. And I think, like, the mere fact is that she could have gone to an organization that actually could have maybe helped him for real, who has the mental health experience and resources to help this homeless man, with his issues. So I think
you're right. 100% right. But there's three problems to that, if I can sum this up, because I do want to take a lesson from this. All right. And it might not be the most Christian lesson, but it is the right lesson, I think. Lesson number one, the people who are homeless living on our streets are criminals. Even if they're not guilty of violent crimes, they're breaking the law by living on the street. We have laws against that in this city, and they're breaking that law. And our government, our law enforcement, should treat it as a law enforcement issue, not just a humanitarian issue, number one. Now, how do you deal with that? You start working with private organizations, especially church religious organizations who are great at this, who really do help people get off the streets. And just like Rudy Giuliani did in New York back in the 90s, you have private-public partnerships with faith-based organizations that get people off the streets, get them a bed, but also, most importantly, clean them up off drugs, clean them up off alcohol, and if they have mental health issues, you get them the help that they need and get them off the streets, okay? And number three, that then gives people like this young woman the confidence to know that those organizations really are effective in doing well. Because sadly, cynically, right now, Mercedes, I'm afraid that too many of these organizations who don't have good private-public partnerships, who aren't working with various law enforcement officials and stuff, I think sometimes you donate to them and say, well, are they really doing good, or are they actually part of the problem? We've seen this on the border, where you've got, sadly, Catholic charities who are part of the problem with the people coming across the border. And they're
getting so much money facilitating illegals in literally giving them free airfare and money. And yet we have homelessness on the streets.
That's right.
And
it hasn't
people
fixed
that we
the problem.
Need to take care of in America.
And it hasn't fixed the problem. I can't say with good conscience, give money to a charity and that's the better way to spend your money, because as long as the D.C. government and law enforcement doesn't enforce our laws and actually force people off the street into those shelters, the problem won't be solved. So maybe that's the lesson. This isn't really just about finding someone and helping them out. These people are troubled people, and they are a danger to many of us. They need to be helped, and that will help society in the long run. We just have to have confidence in these private and public institutions that they're capable of doing it.
Yeah, I don't have confidence in the TikToker who booked his hotel room. That ain't going to solve the problem.
It's not
Sorry.
the way to do it.
It's not going to do it.
Sierra Fox will join us at 8:15 to expand on this story.